Your parents bought a house on a single income. You can't on two. That is not inflation. That is not bad luck. Since 2008, 40 million Americans silently removed from the middle class. No war declared, no disaster announced, no legislation passed. This was not a collapse. This was a calculation. A demographic algorithm running inside the institutions managing your money, calibrated to convert the middle class into a consumption class. And the conversion is already complete for the bracket you're in. This is not a political opinion. This is not a theory. This is a data architecture built across 5 decades, documented in federal records, confirmed in the Fed's own research. You did everything right: degree, job, savings account, 401k. And yet, the gap between where you are and where your parents were at your age keeps widening. You are not failing the system. The system is executing on you. What you are about to see is the exact mechanism, the 5-stage algorithm, that has been systematically liquidating the middle class since 1971. Understanding it will not reverse what has already happened, but without understanding it, you will keep funding it. We will move through 5 acts: the origin, the expansion, the lock-in, the illusion of resistance, and the stage it has reached today, in your lifetime, in your bracket. The data is already in the system. The outcome is already in the numbers. The only question left is whether you understand what those numbers are actually measuring. The algorithm didn't malfunction. It performed exactly as calibrated. In 1971, the middle class was 61% of America. It was not an accident of prosperity. It was the result of a specific architecture, a post-war economic structure that distributed wealth downward by design. Wages rose with productivity. Assets were accessible. The system, for a brief window in history, was calibrated in your favor. That window closed on August 15, 1971, the day Nixon severed the dollar from gold. In a single executive decision, with no public vote, no congressional mandate, the foundational architecture of American wealth was quietly restructured. What followed was not chaos, it was recalibration. The dollar, now unanchored, became a tool, not of exchange but of extraction. Debt could be manufactured without limit. And debt, manufactured without limit, is not a financial instrument. It is a demographic one. It determines who owns and who owes. By 1979, 8 years after the architecture shifted, the real wage of the American worker peaked. It has never returned to that level, not in 45 years. Every economic cycle since has redistributed slightly more upward. The middle class did not begin declining in 2008. 2008 was simply the moment the data became impossible to ignore. But the 1971 shift was only the foundation. What was built on top of it, across the following 3 decades, was something far more inescapable. Because the algorithm doesn't just run on monetary policy, it runs on the institutions you were told were protecting you. The foundation was set, but a foundation alone does not liquidate a class. What followed 1971 was a deliberate expansion. 3 institutions operating in parallel, each one targeting a different pillar of middle-class stability. Housing, education, retirement, not by coincidence, by design. In 1980, the median home price was 2.7 times the median annual income. By 2024, it was 7.5 times. That gap was not created by a shortage of land. It was engineered by a financial system that converted housing from a human asset into an institutional investment vehicle. BlackRock, Vanguard, Invitation Homes. By 2030, institutional projections estimate they will own 40% of all single-family homes in America. In 1980, a 4-year public university degree cost $800 per year. By 2024, $11,000. Tuition increased 375%, while inflation increased 300%. The result, $1.7 trillion in student debt anchoring 45 million Americans to a financial baseline they cannot escape. The degree was not sold as debt. It was sold as the path out of it. The pension, a guaranteed exit from the algorithm, was systematically replaced with the 401k between 1978 and 1990. The transfer was framed as empowerment. It was extraction. 401k algorithms now charge an average 1.4% annually in fees, compounding across a 40-year career into a 37% lifetime reduction of retirement wealth. The middle class was handed the wheel of a car the algorithm was already driving. 3 pillars, 3 decades, 3 simultaneous vectors of extraction, each one targeting the exact asset class the middle class relied on to build generational wealth. This was not market volatility. This was systemic. This was coordinated. And by 1999, all 3 systems were fully operational. But extraction alone does not sustain a system. For the algorithm to become permanent, it needed to become invisible. And to become invisible, it needed to capture the institutions designed to regulate it. That is Act 3. A system of extraction requires one final component to become permanent. It must capture the institutions designed to stop it. Not through conspiracy, through calculus. Regulatory capture is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It happens in the language of policy papers, lobbying budgets, and revolving doors between government and the institutions. Government is supposed to regulate. In 1913, the Federal Reserve was created, framed as a public stabilizer. By 2024, the Fed's own research confirmed that quantitative easing, its primary crisis tool, distributes 84% of its financial benefits to the top wealth quintile. The institution designed to protect the economy became the algorithm's most powerful distribution mechanism. Between 2008 and 2024, the financial sector spent $4.8 billion lobbying the U.S. government. That is not influence. That is infrastructure. Every regulation softened, every oversight mechanism delayed, every consumer protection rolled back was a line item in a budget. The algorithm does not need to break the rules. It writes them. The revolving door is not metaphor. Between 2001 and 2024, 56% of senior SEC officials moved directly into roles at the firms they had been regulating. The watchdog became the architect. And once the architecture was complete, no single administration, no single election, no single policy reversal could dismantle it. It was self-sustaining. By 2008, the system faced its first sovereign test, the largest financial collapse since 1929. The middle class lost $13 trillion in household wealth in 18 months. The financial institutions that engineered the collapse received $700 billion in emergency relief within weeks. The hierarchy of the algorithm was confirmed, and the middle class paid for both the collapse and the rescue. And yet, after 2008, something unexpected happened. A resistance emerged. For a moment, it appeared the algorithm had finally been seen. But what looked like resistance was the algorithm's most sophisticated feature yet. The resistance was part of the design. Every sovereign system requires one final illusion, the illusion that it can be stopped. The algorithm did not fear the movements that emerged after 2008. It had already calculated them. In 2010, the Dodd-Frank Act was signed, the most sweeping financial regulation since the Great Depression. By 2024, the 6 largest U.S. banks held 67% more assets. The regulation did not weaken the algorithm. It legitimized it. In 2011, Occupy Wall Street mobilized in 951 cities. It produced 0 structural reversal. What it did produce was an intelligence infrastructure designed to monitor and contain future dissent. In 1911, Standard Oil was broken apart. Within 2 years, Rockefeller's personal wealth had tripled. The breakup did not dismantle the system, it multiplied it, and the middle class celebrated the verdict. This is the algorithm's most elegant feature. It does not suppress resistance, it absorbs it. Every election cycle resets public expectation, while the structural extraction continues beneath the surface. Today, the algorithm has reached the reclassification threshold. The moment the middle class is no longer an economic class with assets, but a consumption class with subscriptions. That threshold has already been crossed. For your bracket, this is not history. History implies conclusion. What you have just seen is a live system running in real time on your income, your debt, your retirement, your housing cost. The algorithm does not exist in the past. It exists in your bank statement. By 2024, the bottom 60% of Americans held 2.6% of total national wealth. The top 1% held 38.7%. Between 2020 and 2024 alone, the bottom 60% lost an average of $47,000 each. The top 10% gained an average of $340,000 each. These numbers are not projections. They are the output of a system operating exactly as designed. The middle class is not declining. It is being reclassified. From an economic class with assets into a consumption class with subscriptions. You no longer own the house. You rent it. You no longer own the software. You subscribe to it. You no longer own the retirement. The algorithm manages it and extracts from it for 40 years. Ownership was the architecture of middle-class stability. Subscription is the architecture of permanent extraction. The calculus of this system is sovereign. It does not require your participation. It does not require your awareness. It runs on the mortgage you signed, the degree you financed, the retirement account you were told to trust. You are not outside the system looking in. You are the variable the system is solving for. The question is not whether the algorithm exists. The data has already answered that. The question is whether understanding its architecture changes anything, whether the awareness you now carry is enough to alter the variable, or whether the system has already calculated that you would watch this and remain exactly where you are. Your parents bought a house on a single income. You can't on two. That is not inflation. That is not bad luck. That is the output. And the system is still running.